everyone, my name is Alison Woodall and I'm a relocation specialist. That means I get to help you with the financial, logistical and emotional issues that make moving to a new state so stressful. And today I'm talking to Megan Behan and she is a realtor in Houston, Texas. Megan, welcome.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, before we start talking about Houston and your real estate market, I would love to know just a little bit more about you, because you haven't lived in Houston forever, have you? Where did you live before?
Well, I grew up in Florida and I spent a lot of time on the East Coast of Florida, just north of West Palm Beach. And then I moved to the West Coast of Florida for the tail end of my high school career. And then I went to Duke University in North Carolina. And after graduation, my husband and I, we decided to land in the New Orleans area. And then Hurricane Katrina had other plans for us. And that's how we ended up in the Houston area.
Wow, so you've literally had a taste of most of the South and a lot of the places that I love. I know that for a lot of Californians, they're scared about humidity, and humidity would probably put them off Florida. It would certainly put them off, anywhere in Louisiana. But what I always say is, nowhere's perfect. And if the rest of the year is just beautiful, a little bit of humidity in summer, it's worth putting up with. Is that your experience?
I would agree with that 100%. I mean, if you can get through kind of June to September, it's beautiful from October through, May here. We really have such a nice climate for, all the activities year round.
Well, wonderful. So talking specifically about your market in Houston, what is the Houston market like right now?
Crazy. Just like so many other places, we're seeing a massive influx from a lot of the West Coast, a lot of California, upper Northwest, just entire families, not just the parents, but the grandparents and the brothers and the cousins. Everybody's kind of, one of them will come first and then the next set of the family will come, and we're seeing it's happening on a rapid pace. It's almost breathtaking to see the speed at which the influx is occurring.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I always say when I talk to people is, if you are that first person who is making the move out of California, that is such an incredibly scary thing to do. But so many times, if you are that brave pioneer who makes that move, then the rest of your family is going to see how amazing your life is, and they're going to follow. So obviously, if you're dealing with Californians' budgets tend to be a little bit higher. But if someone maybe can't afford to get on the property ladder in California and they're wanting to move to Houston, do you have more affordable properties depending on, kind of where you go in the city?
Oh, absolutely. And we're talking for every demographic on the property ladder, whether you're a first-time buyer, whether you're retiring. We really have something that appeals to all. And the affordability is really one of the number one drivers, is that not only can you get a home, reasonably priced, but you also have the space of the land. We're seeing a lot of people relocating specifically because they want to have more elbow room on their properties. They want to have their big buildings with all their toys. So that's really been a major prerequisite when I'm talking with these buyers relocating is, can I afford to live in Montgomery County and, Woodlands area? And I say absolutely, because we have, home prices are so much more reasonable here for everyone.
Okay. Your area that you cover, what's that like? Is that a commuter area? Is it more kind of country? What is it like?
It's actually a very good blend of both, because one of the things I will say that Texas has got down is movability, being able to commute into the city, living, just 45 minutes north, and easy access, not only for people who are still in the workforce, but also for retirees that want to be close to the hospital complexes. Texas has built roads to enable that easy access, no matter how far out into the country you are. They're really creating the ability to maneuver and get to Houston with the 249, the Aggie Expressway, with 45 going south, and all of the crossroads that really connect the area. You have the suburban area of the Woodlands, and as you get further out, you have the more larger acreage, but we're starting to see master plan communities eyeing locations along these different corridors of 99 and 249. It really is becoming so desirable to get out of the chaos and the congestion of Houston, but still have access to it. And that's one of the remarkable things about Montgomery County is we are seated just north of Harris County, where Houston is. So having that, right at the south with all of the world-class shopping, all of the sports, outdoor activities, like everything you can think of, it really is making Montgomery County's growth just exponential.
And that's what I remember about Texas, because there are many people who drive very large trucks. I drive an F-150, and your average Texan's truck makes my truck look tiny, but I loved it because everybody drives quickly but safely, and they follow the rules of the road, because every state has like unwritten rules. Like in town, you've lived in South Florida, so in Tampa everybody just drives like this as fast as possible, and it's terrifying. Whereas at least Texas, if you're driving fast, the roads are big, it's a very fun state to me to drive in. And the connectivity is good. So in terms of like spread of houses, if I came to you and I had, say, on the low end, like a $300,000 budget, could you find me a house?
Oh, easily. We could get you a $300,000 house on, a standard lot in a neighborhood with amenities, with access to the lake. You really have a little bit of something for everyone. The Woodlands, I will say, is getting more expensive because it is considered an outer suburb of Houston. We are all considered outer suburbs of Houston now. But as you get a little further out, especially where I live in Willis, you're able to find much more affordable, first time on the property ladder, retirement, wanting that lower price point and easy lifestyle, low maintenance. It's here.
Well, good, because I think so many people in California see houses and your average house price is, $700,000 or $800,000, and they presume that the rest of, the US is like that. And it used to be, I could say, oh, you could find a nice affordable house for $150,000. I mean, certainly where I am in Georgia, you used to be able to. Now, just because of the booming property prices, it's difficult to find a house where I live for under $200,000. But you can, if you want a real fixer upper, they are out there, but certainly 300,000 is a good budget to get you a very nice home in most places.
Absolutely. And especially here, as you start to get a little further out, but still along the 45 corridor, so easy access to, all the shopping and restaurants and hospitals, you can get a home for, in the 250s, 260s, 270s, so it still exists here. And, as you get closer into the average across the county is around 400,000, but that's taking into consideration all of the higher end, locations as well. But as you get into the Magnolia or Montgomery, further out into the outer parts of the county, north and west, it really becomes much more attainable to have a much bigger house, a much bigger piece of land, and still be under $500,000.
Wow. Wow, that's good to know. And so obviously you're metropolitan, so lots of access. You mentioned shops and things like that. Good hospitals, if someone, needs access to hospitals. Yeah. And what about schools? Schools is always a big one.
Yes. And so, for our area, Conroe ISD is one of the largest school districts, and it's where the Woodlands is, but it spreads outward away from the Woodlands, and it's one of the top rated in the area. Montgomery ISD, which is around the whole lake area, Lake Conroe area. And then where I am is Willis ISD, which is rapidly expanding. And they're already forecasting multiple new schools that the growth is really driving, and the population increase is really driving the new schools that are being, slated for the next few years. So, what used to be with more rural and small town and not quite as good school districts is transforming as the population grows.
Well, that's good to know. And obviously, jobs and everything, plenty of jobs if someone's moving to Texas and doesn't have a job.
Oh yeah, that's another one of the biggest drivers is the opportunity to have not only a good quality of life, but that ability to, climb the job ladder in whatever industry you're looking at, because we have such a diverse economy.
Yeah, and right now, it's the best time to move if you haven't already got a job that you're going to, because everyone is so desperate for employees, and everyone I talk to is like, well, we don't, from the level of a server or a waiter or bartender all the way up to corporate jobs. I don't know. I was joking with one of my friends. I don't know where all the people have gone, but there's just every company you talk to, they're like, we're desperate to hire people. We can't find the right people. We can't find good people. We just can't find people. So it is a really good time to move if you're going to make that move out of California.
Yeah, and we're seeing entire companies relocating. The tech companies are moving in mass all over the Texas area, from the Austin area all the way down to the border. These big, huge tech companies are coming in, and the average age, the 35 and unders, we're seeing a lot of young couples relocating to this area to raise their families.
And so obviously, because Texas has no state income tax, that makes your property taxes a little bit higher. I don't know, property tax, are they very high, or how does it kind of play out?
I think for people relocating to Texas that are used to having, $5,000 a year or less, $2,000-3,000 a year on their taxes, it does present a little bit of sticker shock when they do see their taxes for the year. But that is our primary way that, for all of our emergency services, for all of the infrastructure that supports our growth, that's where it's coming from. But there are quite a few ways with the different exemptions afforded to homeowners. There are different ways, especially for our over 65, there's exemptions. There's exemptions for our disabled veterans. There's quite a bit of exemptions that, the reason why I say you have to align yourself with a good realtor is they can help you, look at all those factors, because for my retirees, taxes are a big deal. They want to be in a lower rate when they're relocating here. So while it plays a role, there are different strategies you can help them with location. Okay,
well, that's good to know. I always think if you're not paying if you're not paying federal tax or state tax, they've got to fund the economy somehow. But overall, I would still rather be, having lived in Tennessee and Florida and Texas, I would still rather live in a state that doesn't have state income tax and just pay more on property, because then if you buy a smaller house, you're paying less on property taxes. Whereas if you, and that's easier than, cutting your career, minimizing your career so you're not paying, income tax. So the other thing that we didn't talk about was like recreation. So obviously I think of Houston and it's a big city. So you've got all those big city amenities, but do you have lakes? How close are you to the coast? All of those kind of things.
So right outside my window is Lake Conroe, and we've lived on the water for the last 16 years. We thought we'd be in our late 50s before we had our lake house, but we were able to find our dream home, in 2013, and we have not looked back. It is one of the reasons that so many people relocate here is because year-round outdoor activities, whether you're into hiking, biking, horseback riding, fishing, water sports, golf, tennis, you can do it all year round here. And so that's been one of the things that I see is a major attraction and appeal for people who are wanting to escape inclement weather from the north.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing is, people, if you live near the coast in California, a lot of people say, well, I can't leave California because I want to be near the ocean. Well, as long as you're near some kind of body of water, whether it's a lake, whether it's a river, often you have more accessibility to a lake than you do. I would never get in the ocean in Northern California. It's so cold. But I would go, if I lived near a lake, I'd be in a lake all the time.
Absolutely. There is something very relaxing, being able to walk out our door and just hearing the sound of the water and seeing the sailboats go by. But really and truly, we're only 90 miles to the coast. So if someone was interested in deep sea fishing or beach lifestyle, I have had clients relocate back and forth from the coast, many times just because they've fallen in love with the lake and then they still want to have their beach house. So I feel like you can have your cake and eat it too here.
Yes, and it's beautiful, warm Gulf Coast ocean. It's not freezing cold Pacific Ocean. And I know Southern California is very different. We lived kind of in the Central Valley over the hill from San Francisco, and that's Northern California is a whole different beach experience to Florida.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, and so we've talked about a little bit about humidity. You know, the rest of the year makes up for humidity. Extreme weather, you don't really get any kind of extreme weather. I know an occasional hurricane, but you get so much warning with hurricanes. I don't even think about them. You know, when we were in Florida, everybody's like, you've got 4 or 5 days to prepare, and most of the time it doesn't come anywhere near. So I always say to people, don't worry about hurricanes. If you can survive an earthquake in California, hurricanes are, you know, not an issue.
I would say that, you know, one of the things after Hurricane Harvey, we have seen more people doing their due diligence as far as, you know, wanting to make sure they avoid being in a flood zone. But that's really, you know, when it comes to the actual hurricanes themselves, we're so far inland. Being 90 miles from the coast really does make a difference in terms of, you know, what you experience from the hurricane. We don't get the you know, the heavy flooding factors, and the wind is much more diminished this far inland. So by the time, you know, a hurricane hits us, it's down to a 1 or a 2, and it's really more of a rain event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, wonderful. Anything that we haven't covered that you feel like, you know, people should know about Houston?
You know, it's one of the fastest growing areas, and I'm not surprised. We still have so much room to grow. And I think that's really one of the things that makes it so attractive, is that we still have, you know, the woods, and we still have the country and the acreage and the farms, but yet we're so close to everything that a big, you know, 8 million plus person city has to offer. And I think that is really something that over the next few years is going to continue to be an attractive, an appealing thing for people relocating.
Well, wonderful. Well, if someone wants to buy a house in Houston, how do they contact you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook, Discover Montgomery County. That's my Facebook page. And then you can also find me on Instagram or LinkedIn, either through my name, the Megan Behan team, or we are transitioning. And I'm going to say here for the first time today, we are now going to be Team on the Rise. So I'm very excited to share that with you. And so, yeah, I would love to have someone contact me. My number is 936-525-8100.
Well, perfect. Well, wherever you're watching this video, I'm going to put all the links to all Megan's contact information wherever you're watching this. It gets shown in several places, and I'll make sure all those links are there. Thank you so much. You know, my husband actually has an interview for a job in Houston, and I was like, I don't know if I love Dallas. I'm not sure if Houston's going to be my city, but you've convinced me that Houston could be a very good place for me and my family to relocate to.
Call me, I'd love to show you.
Well, thank you so much.
So long, California.